Okay, so now the Buddha is reviewing his realization, his attainment. So he says, I consider this Dhamma that I have attained is profound, hard to see, hard to understand, peaceful and sublime, unattainable by mere reasoning, by mere logic. The taka vacharo, literally it's outside the range of reasoning, rationalism. It's subtle and pandita vedaniyo. It's to be experienced by the wise, to be realized by the wise. Okay, so this is a kind of review of the Dhamma that he has attained. Mayam Dhammo abhigato. Okay, now you can see he's starting to think about the possibility of teaching others. Of course, now his mind turns from the Dhamma that he's realized and it looks out upon sentient beings. And then he sees that, he says, this generation, well, maybe better, usually generation, nowadays we used to speak about the beat generation, the lost generation, Generation X. What is the current generation?
Y.
Y. Letter Y or?
Letter Y. Generation B.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, that was in the 1980s.
Exactly.
Okay, but the word used here in Pali, it's paja, would maybe better be rendered population. In fact, that's what I use now. This population. Then we have an expression that's a little bit hard to translate very exactly into English. Here I render it delights in attachment. But the word that's used here in Pali is ale. Which has several implications or sort of dimensions of meaning. On the one hand, alaya can indicate the subjective act of clinging, adherence. And also it suggests that which one clings to, the objects of clinging. And also the word suggests something like the lair of an animal, like the den of an animal. So that it's a place that one repeatedly goes back to, maybe seeking safety and security. The place that's familiar, the place where one feels at home. And so we could say that from the Buddha's perspective here, this population, that means especially the human population, in other words, us, delights in clinging to things, in the objects of clinging. And we're so settled into our homes, our familiar territories, that it's hard for us to break out and to look at things from a different point of view, especially a point of view that will ask us to give up our clinging. So this population delights in attachment, takes delight in attachment, rejoices in attachment. And now, this is a very important statement because this is going to show us what the Buddha realized through his enlightenment. He says, and what is that Dhamma that the Buddha just referred to in the previous sentence? The Dhamma that's profound, hard to see, and hard to understand. Here we see that this Dharma has two aspects to it. First aspect, he says, it is hard for such a population to see this truth, or this principle, namely specific conditionality, dependent origination. So this first aspect of the Buddha's enlightenment is paticca samuppada, dependent origination. And it's also called here, I render it, I think following Bhikkhu Nyanamoli, specific conditionality. And in Pali, it's Pali, it's called idapachayata, this is a compound that's made up of a prefix idam, which simply means this. Pachaya means condition, and the ta at the end turns it into an abstract noun. Something like the English word nis, or ship, or hood. Or ITY, in fact. And so this is, in a way, it's a shorthand expression for the formula that we meet with sometimes in the text. Idang sati, imasmin sati, idang hoti, imasu pada, idang upajati. That is, when X exists, Y comes to be. Through the arising of X, Y arises. So it means that one thing originates through something specific as its condition. And in a way, this is like a compressed term that incorporates the whole 12-fold formula of dependent origination, with ignorance as condition, the volitional activities originate. With the volitional activities as condition, consciousness originates, and so on, all the ways down. With birth as condition, there is old age, death, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair. So dependent origination, specific conditionality, they're two terms for the same thing, this phenomena, or this principle of phenomena arising in dependence on conditions. And those conditions, in turn, originate through other factors as their conditions. And those other factors originate with still other factors as their conditions. And so we have this whole series, or better, a whole network of phenomena originating through their specific conditions. Is my voice carrying to the back?
Yes.
It is.
Okay, so we could say that is one part of the Buddha's realization. Then the other part, the counterpart to this, is indicated by the next sentence. He says, And it is hard to see this truth or this principle, namely the stilling or quieting down of all formations, all volitional formations, all volitional activities, the relinquishing or giving up of all acquisitions, everything that we acquire and hold to has to be relinquished and given up. The destruction of craving, dispassion, cessation, nirvana. So that is the other side. So we have, on the one hand, that principle that lies behind the continuation of the cycle of samsara, the round of birth and death, and that is dependent origination, phenomena originating dependent on other phenomena. Now in the Sutta number 36, we saw the Buddha expressed his realization in terms of the Four Noble Truths. So if we take this side of specific conditionality or dependent origination, we can see in this the first two Noble Truths. So craving, ignorance, clinging, karmic activities, those are all expressing the second Noble Truth, the truth of the origination of suffering. And then the results like birth, old age, and death, that is expressing the truth of suffering. And then in the second statement, where we have the series of terms, all are just synonyms for Nibbana, we have the third Noble Truth. And then what's not stated here, but implied by the third Noble Truth, is the path to Nibbana. That is the Noble Eightfold Path. Okay, so now the Buddha is reflecting on these two aspects of his realization. And then he thinks to himself, if I were to teach the Dhamma, others would not understand me. And that would be wearying and troublesome for me. And then he expresses the same idea in verse. He says, enough with teaching the Dhamma that even I found hard to reach, for it will never be perceived by those who live in lust and hate. Those died in lust, that was Venerable Nyanamoli. I might say those excited by lust or aroused by lust, those wrapped in darkness, will never discern this abstruse Dhamma which goes against the stream, the worldly stream, which is subtle, deep, and difficult to see. Very beautifully expressed verses. Okay, then the Buddha now, he's reflecting again and again. Probably he was thinking of this not just once, but throughout the day, or maybe several days. And then he says, he comes to the conclusion, considering thus, my mind inclined to inaction, or maybe we could rephrase that to dwelling at ease, just living without much activity, taking it easy, living peacefully in the forest, meditating quietly, rather than to teaching the Dhamma. Okay, now, this is the scene I always like when I imagine myself maybe taking up my career as a film producer. We have, like, back in those days, Cecil B. DeMille, was it? You know, the greatest story ever told, 10 Commandments. So here we have the Buddha sitting on the seat of enlightenment. You know, the morning mists have been dispelled as the sun is rising. And now Brahma Sahampati, this is like one of the deities in the very high heavenly worlds. He's up there in the heaven, and he's looking down at the Buddha, and he knows what's going on in the Buddha's mind. And so it says he knew with his mind the thought in my mind, and he considered the world will be lost, the world will perish, since the mind of the Tathagata, the Arahat, the fully enlightened one, inclines to inaction, to living at ease, rather than to teaching the Dhamma. Then just as quickly as a strong man might extend his flexed arm, his arm in the normal position, he stretches it out, or just as he might pull in his outstretched arm, Brahma Sahampati vanished in the Brahma world, this high heavenly realm, and he appeared before me. And then according to the commentary, when Brahma Sahampati descends into the human world, he doesn't come just alone, but he's accompanied by thousands and thousands of attendants, you know, other deities from his realm. So this is what makes the filming of the sequence so exciting. Okay, now Brahma Sahampati, as we said, he is regarded as one of the high divinities in the Buddhist picture of the universe. But when he comes to the Buddha's presence, he's like a good, pious lay devotee. So he arranges his upper robe on one shoulder. It's considered the polite, respectful way to arrange the robe. Then he puts his hands together in a respectful salutation. This is what they call Anjali in India. So holding his hands up like this towards the Buddha. According to the same version of the sutta in the Samyutta Nikaya, he bends down with one knee on the ground, and then he says to the Buddha, he's sort of pleading with the Buddha now. Yeah, he says, cut camera. Okay, he says, Venerable Sir, let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma, let the Sublime One teach the Dhamma. There are beings with little dust in their eyes who are wasting away, who will perish if they don't get to hear the Dhamma. Then he gives the Buddha this assurance. There will be those who will understand the Dhamma. And then he makes the same appeal in verse, again, these are very beautiful verses. He says in Magadha is the state of northeast India, roughly corresponding to Bihar, the state of Bihar today. He says, in Magadha there have appeared till now impure teachings devised by those still stained. Open the doors to the deathless. Let them hear the Dhamma that the stainless one has found. Just as one who stands on a mountain peak can see below the people all around. So, O wise one, all-seeing sage, ascend the palace of the Dhamma. Let the sorrowless one survey humankind, this human population, engulfed in sorrow, overcome by birth and old age. And again, now he gets very emotional. He says, arise, O victorious hero, caravan leader, debtless one, and wander in the world. Let the Blessed One teach the Dhamma. There will be those who will understand. Okay, so now Brahma Sahampati has delivered his message. And now the Buddha doesn't immediately consent to teach. But after he listens to Brahma's entreaty, then he says, out of compassion for living beings, I surveyed the world with the eye of a Buddha. This would be like a special kind of faculty of spiritual vision by which the Buddha can now look out over the world and see into the minds of sentient beings. He can see their potentials, their karmic accumulations, their qualities, faculties, dispositions, and so on. And so then he says, when I surveyed the world with the eye of a Buddha, I saw beings with little dust in their eyes and with much dust in their eyes. Those with keen faculties and dull faculties, with good qualities and with bad qualities, those who were easy to teach and hard to teach, and some who dwelt seeing fear and blame in the other world. I think this means those who see the danger even in any kind of rebirth, even in a heavenly realm. And then he illustrates this with, again, it's a very beautiful simile, a simile of a pond of lotus flowers. Just as in a pond of blue, red, or white lotuses, some lotuses that are born and grow in the world thrive underwater and don't rise up from the pond. Other lotuses rise to the surface of the water and remain there. And then there are some other lotuses that grow up in the water and they rise out of the water and they stand clear, unwetted by the water. So too, surveying the world with the eye of the Buddha, I saw beings with these different qualities. And then I replied to Brahma Sahampati in verse. This is a famous verse. He says, open for them are the doors to the deathless. Let those with ears, in other words, those who can hear the teaching, now show their faith. Because having faith or trust, this is the quality of mind that makes one open, that enables one to open one's mind in order to listen and try to understand the teaching. Thinking it would be troublesome, Brahma, I did not speak the Dhamma subtle and sublime. Okay, so now the Buddha has agreed to teach the Dhamma. And so Brahma realizes his mission has been accomplished. And so he says, the Blessed One has consented to my request to teach the Dhamma. And then Brahma Sahampati pays homage to the Buddha, even though he's a chief divinity, but he bows down respectfully to the Buddha, circles him, keeping the right side to him, another sign of respect, and then he disappears on the spot.